Welcome in, everyone, to our deep dive on, honestly, a career that's always kind of fascinated me, the colonel. It's a role that's got this, I don't know, like air of mystique around it, but also seems pretty, impressive. We've got a ton of insights from RoleCatcher to dig into today, and it goes way beyond like the typical battlefield image. We're talking strategy, global impact, even get this, AI.
You're right on the money with that beyond the battlefield idea. Most folks see Colonel and picture something very specific, but we're really talking about individuals working at the top levels of not just military strategy, but even, and this is what surprised me, political strategy.
Yeah, that's what caught me off guard too. So it's not just about advising generals. Rollcatcher mentioned colonels could be advising, like actual government leaders,
Yeah.
which, wow, talk about pressure. Do you have a sense of what that actually looks like in the real world?
Picture, if you will, a situation room, global crisis unfolding. You've got all the experts there, intelligence, diplomats, even economists, but it's the colonel with that on-the-ground military experience. They're the ones who can, cut through the noise, analyze everything strategically, and then advise on potential consequences. It's providing that critical military viewpoint to inform these huge decisions.
Okay, yeah, suddenly the whispering in the ears of power thing is way more uh, concrete and intimidating, if we're being honest. And Rollcatcher is very upfront about the demands here. Long hours, deployments, and, I mean, enough stress to make your head spin.
No sugarcoating it. It's not a path for everyone, but that intensity also comes with huge rewards. We're talking immense responsibility. It's not just making decisions, it's leading teams, managing resources, navigating situations with, honestly, incredibly high stakes.
So it's that, like, pressure and purpose combined, right?
Yes.
It's not just a job. You could actually shape the course of history. And speaking of shaping things, Rollcatcher emphasizes how much tech is changing what it even means to be a colonel these days.
Oh, absolutely. Technology is totally rewriting the rules.
Right.
We're not talking about just tanks and planes anymore. This is drones, AI, communication systems that would blow your mind. And for anyone considering this path, understanding that tech is non-negotiable. In fact, let me give you an example.
Yes, please. Because I'll be honest, when I hear AI and military, my brain goes straight to, like, sci-fi movies, which is probably not that helpful.
Right, no robot armies, at least not yet. Imagine a colonel leading a mission, maybe in a really unstable region. They're getting real-time data from everywhere. Satellites, drones, even social media.
Yeah.
But it's way too much for a person to process, right? And that's where AI comes in.
So it's like having a, superpowered intelligence analyst working alongside you, making sense of this flood of information as it's happening.
You got it. It's not about replacing human judgment. It's about giving colonels the absolute best tools to make decisions in a world that's changing faster than ever. And that kind of leads to a big question for anyone thinking about this career.
Yeah, like how on earth do you even begin to prepare for a role this demanding? You don't just walk out of college and into a colonel's uniform, right?
Right. It's definitely not like an instant thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, RoleCatcher actually lays out kind of the whole career climb. And yeah, it all starts with joining the military.
Right, you got to start somewhere. So it seems like a super structured path, working up through the ranks, gaining experience and skills at every level.
Exactly. And you're always learning, refining your expertise. Things like leadership, strategy, even logistics. Not always what people think of with military, but it's all connected. And each stage comes with new expectations, more responsibility.
And speaking of stages, I noticed Rollcatcher actually breaks it down that way, even gives like real world examples of what someone at each level does. They had this whole thing about a junior level colonel, and this phrase stuck out, results driven. What's that even mean in this context?
That's a good catch. See, early in a colonel's career, they're often tasked with specific operations, right? Planning and execution. So they're given objectives, but the how is up to them. The tactics, the logistics, coordinating all the moving parts. Results-driven means turning those goals into action and, crucially, delivering measurable outcomes.
So less about the big picture vision thing, more about like, here's the plan, here's how we do it, and here's the proof it worked.
Exactly. Being both a planner and the operator,
Hmm?
comfortable getting into the nitty-gritty but never losing sight of the larger strategy. And RoleCatcher points out, even at that junior level, it's about integration, bringing together different units, often with very specialized skills, for these complex missions. We're not talking one platoon. It could be air support, ground troops, intelligence, all working in sync.
So even early on, huge part of being a colonel is making sure everyone's on the same page, working towards that shared goal. Which probably explains why Rollcatcher's always talking about communication, interpersonal skills, and not just at the top, but every step of the way.
Absolutely essential. A colonel, no matter their level, has to articulate their vision, build trust with their team, and sometimes have really tough conversations with both superiors and subordinates. It's leadership, diplomacy, what we call strategic communication, how you frame things, manage expectations, make sure everyone feels heard.
Makes sense, especially when things get intense and clear communication can be the difference between success and, well, not so much. And speaking of intense, just thinking about interviewing for a job like this makes me nervous. So for our listeners who are feeling that pull, that intrigue, what's the starting line even look like, those early career moves?
So in most cases, aspiring colonels, they'll start by enrolling in a military academy or maybe officer training programs after they get their bachelor's. These programs give that foundation, military science, leadership, strategy, all building towards those future leadership roles.
So diving right in, building those core skills from day one, I bet that's intense, but also invaluable in a field where experience, that on-the-ground knowledge, is everything.
Absolutely. It goes beyond just the textbook stuff. We're talking rigorous training, field exercises, simulations that really put you to the test under pressure, pushing people to their limits, helping them develop that resilience, the adaptability, the decision-making you need as a colonel.
So we've established this is a journey, right? Years of service, constantly developing yourself. But for anyone listening thinking, this sounds amazing, but how do I stand out? How do I compete in a pool of, let's be honest, probably very qualified people?
That's got to be where something like RoleCatcher becomes super useful, yeah?
You're preaching to the choir. Standing out in this field, it's not enough to just tick the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, yeah, RoleCatcher's tools come in handy. Like their interview prep, it's not a joke. They've got this whole database of potential colonel interview questions. And I'm telling you, this isn't the usual tell me your strength stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just about having the questions, right? It's about what they're really asking.
Yep.
Like RoleCatcher mentioned one is, tell me about a time you failed, which, whoa, talk about starting off intense. Right. But see, it's not whether you messed up. Everyone does. It's how you learned from it. Did you analyze what went wrong, how your choices played a role, and what you changed because of it? It's showing you can learn, adapt, and come out a stronger leader.
Which, honestly, good life advice in general, not just for future colonels. RoleCatcher also has this thing called, get this, RoleCatcher Lat Capture. I thought it was a spy gadget at first, but it's actually way more practical.
Working smarter, not harder, right? RoleCatcher.capture basically lets you save job postings from like everywhere, LinkedIn, Indeed, those niche military boards, all of it. So instead of a million tabs open, you get everything in one spot.
Makes sense. Who needs that chaos? Especially when you're already juggling like an actual military career on top of everything else. Okay, but let's say someone's put in the work, they've climbed the ranks, they've become a colonel. Then what? What's after the battlefield for someone with that level of experience?
That's when all those years of, strategic thinking, problem solving under pressure, it becomes golden. RoleCatcher talks about several paths. Some go into consulting, bringing that military mind to the business world. Others end up in government agencies, national security, things like that.
Which makes sense. They've spent their careers navigating like global situations, often with not enough info and a ton of pressure.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
don't underestimate the leadership aspect. Being able to not just command, but to inspire, motivate, get everyone working towards the same goal, that's valuable anywhere. So whether it's a company or a government agency, those skills, especially at the colonel level, they translate.
So as we wrap up, for anyone listening who's like got that fire in their belly now, any final thoughts? What do you want them to take away from all this?
The big thing is becoming a colonel. It's not just about the title. It's a whole mindset. It's constant learning, strategic thinking, and that unwavering leadership. It's being okay with pressure, adapting to new tech all the time, and always, always putting your people first. Tough path for sure, but the impact you can have, the fulfillment, it's real.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And it sounds like for those ready to take that first step, RoleCatcher's got their back.
100%. They're offering the roadmap, the tools, even that sense of community for anyone brave enough to answer the call.
There you have it, folks. The world of the colonel.
Mm.
Complex, demanding, but man, is it ever rewarding. Hopefully this deep dive gave you a little peek behind the curtain and maybe, just maybe, spark some inspiration for your own journey wherever it may lead.